Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. My name is Jon.
This is Crystal. We talk about the joys and the challenges of teaching music in the elementary school classroom.
We share struggles, we brainstorm solutions.
And we would love to have you join us. Hey, welcome to Chaotic Harmony.
Hey.
You're Jonathan Seligman.
I am. Hi there. How's it going?
I'm good.
I am. Then you're Marc.
I'm Marc.
Hey, we have Marc Keehmer here.
Hey.
Hi. Good to see you too.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
How's it going?
It's good. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, we're
where's your
thrilled to
cardigan?
have you back.
Where's your bow tie? Disappointment, dude. It's okay. It's okay.
Mark's keeping it cash.
Cash.
It's a day off.
Oh,
It
fair
is.
enough.
And this would be my outfit if I could every day.
Okay.
But I shouldn't. Although I have been told, like, you have to wear a tie every day.
Okay.
I choose
Oh.
to because the midsection's been a bit rotund.
Fair.
And so that tie helps break it up.
You know what? We all got through COVID the best way we knew how,
you
okay?
did.
You sure did.
Oh, man. Dude, it was rough going to a physical for the first time after COVID. And it's like, yeah, see, this was what you were before and where you are now. Is yep.
Yep.
Hey, my pants still fit, so we're fine. Okay.
Mine don't.
My
And
shirts
that's
don't.
okay because we're humans,
We're human,
and that's
absolutely.
fine. Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, on that note, hey, so we brought Marc back because we wanted to do an end of the year recap.
Yeah.
Yes.
We made it.
We made it.
You made
Thank
it.
God
Thank
we
you.
made it. So Jonathan and I have been saying for the last few episodes that we think that this year in many ways was more difficult than last year. Yeah. And my theory is it's like we came back to in-person learning and there was this simultaneous like the kids were excited to be back and kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so they were on their best behavior. They were like, is this for real? Are we going to go back? And then there were so many COVID shutdowns in the classes. So we were in, we were out. This was the first year of stability. And so the kids are doing what kids do and they felt safe. And when kids feel safe, they test boundaries.
Yep.
And so there was much boundary testing.
And
So, yeah.
amidst also the things that they did and learned while they were in closures, essentially. So for me, they tested boundaries virtually as well.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
Oh.
there was some social media stuff that was created that was by kids that was not okay.
Oh.
So we had to shut that down hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
For
it was
sure.
bad.
Directed at you?
I was part of it. It was directed to the whole school.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's different. I mean, we dealt with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, they figured out how to open up my virtual classes at like 2 a.m. and
Same.
have class parties. I'd come in and it'd be like, Dominic started class at 2:30 a.m. And I'm like, no. Oh, no.
During the virtual
Yeah.
year? Okay.
Yes. Yeah. During the virtual year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I'm so glad we're not doing that anymore.
Why? Whatever.
Like, well, because they could. Like,
They
there's-
could,
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
also, I think part of it is also like
It was access to their friends.
access to their friends for sure. I
Yeah.
know I had some former students that is still tied to, they're still in the district, but like decided to like, oh, I miss you. I was like,
Yeah. They could invite people from other schools at first before we
Got
figured that
here
out.
for a while.
party time, party time.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was a left turn.
But yeah, they tested boundaries not just inside the class, but outside as well.
They
There's a
did.
lot.
They did. So this year it was more of just like convincing them that being in the classroom at all times was mandatory.
Yeah. And they also, like something you've mentioned in many, many, many episodes, like the question that they always ask is, are you someone that I can trust?
Right. Yeah.
And that
Do you
was
care?
after after school closures, like that is a prevalent question because a lot of teachers have entered the mindset, all right, we're back, it's time for us to do the things we did before, but the lack of or the question of trust has been increased, and so placing these like old school approaches has just kind of disrupted the whole trust element and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure has.
Yeah.
So anyway, how did it feel up at the district level is what I'm curious about.
With what you can share.
This year versus
no.
last. Yeah.
Well, I will say I wasn't sitting there in July this year writing COVID guidelines like
Oh,
I
hey,
was
that's
the first
nice.
year.
That's
yeah.
nice.
So
Yeah.
when I got the job, like 2 weeks in, 3 weeks in, I was at my desk writing the COVID guidelines for you all. I was like, I'm not qualified to do this. So I was working with risk management, but there was nothing at the state, there was nothing at the or at the county, and so I didn't have to do that this year. This year,
Praise be.
To Gilgamesh.
I think that this year there was a lot of new. We had a lot of new teachers. We had a lot of people switch sites this year, and so there was just a lot of kind of learning within coming back. And so I think for me, one of the things that I had attempted this year, and whether or not it was successful, we'll find out, but really to help build the community amongst VAPA teachers and provide that space for them. And trying to do it in a way where I recognize and I hear and I know that there is a lot going on, that there are teachers who are tired, that there are people who still haven't fully, come back to their quote unquote normal selves from the pandemic, because that was a very traumatic experience. And so we have these students who have gone through trauma. We have these adults who've gone through trauma. And unfortunately, we still have to continue to do the thing. And so for me, it was trying to be gentle in a way that is helpful to teachers and try not to push too much, because there's a part of me that wants to go 100 miles an hour because we have to, but there's also a part of me that's like, we can't go 100 miles an hour, and I want to try to be,
everybody's out of gas.
Yes, absolutely. And so I want to try to be cognizant of that. But we still are being held to a standard. We are still being looked at, and like the arts in general, like they're still under a microscope. And so now that we're back to normal-ish,
sort of,
there are these expectations amongst everybody of, well, we need to get back to pre-pandemic life and pre-pandemic numbers, whether that's testing, whether that's this, whether that's that. Like that is what needs to happen. Yeah. And so trying to balance you as a team, like there needs to be some sort of professional learning or some sort of sharpening skills, but there can't be this dramatic push that is going to make people be so burnt out and so overwhelmed with their job because they're trying to survive the day-to-day. So it's trying to provide that vision, trying to provide, hey, we are doing the thing and we're going to do it together. And that's like, you are the people who you need to lean on in order to do the thing, because y'all can't lean on one person and you all are doing the same thing essentially. Be a team. And so that's why this last year we wrote the mission statement, because and that's why it took 6 months to do. Because for me, like, that's really valuable to have that common language, to have that common unity. And as I've shared with teachers, like, that's the thing that filters all the decision making for me. And so if I'm looking at something and I filter it through this, if it don't work, let's not do it. If it does, let's do it. And I'm hoping that people at their sites do that same thing. And I'm not sure who saw, who got, who didn't, but I even made little mission statement swag cards. And so like I had written them, printed them, laminated them, and like I did that. So you had it. And so teachers had it to look there. It was small. So it was like, all right, put it on your desk. Obviously people do what they want, but like for me, I have it on my desk right there. So whenever I'm doing something, I can look at it and be like, okay, this is what we're doing. And so there was a lot of new learning for me too. Communication is continually something that I am failing and relearning and trying to get better at. And there's a part of me that wants to just like and like speak all the things. But there needs to be some more finesse, and I'm learning how to be a little bit more finesse within my role, especially with things that I know need to be changed. And I know that there are practices and there are things that aren't necessarily ideal. But if I approach it, in my brain, if I approach it in a way of like, hey, John, you need to fix that right now, and next time I see you, it better be fixed, like that's not helpful. But then also recognizing my stature of I'm not anyone's direct supervisor. And so there is that too. And then additionally, there is the title or the stank of, well, you are the district. So
you have a lot of hats that don't exactly meld together easily.
Yes, I agree. And one of the things I was talking to another music teacher about I think that there is this way that people can vilify the district. And I think it's super easy too, because when things don't necessarily look how they should, or they do this, it's super easy. Oh, the district doesn't care. The district doesn't, whatever. So I was talking to this person. I was like, next time that you yourself feel that way, insert my name in there. Because I'm a person, and does that sentence still carry? The district doesn't care. Mark doesn't care. Does that still? And no, it's not all about me, of course. But just trying to put a name to the thing that you are frustrated with, and realizing, okay, well, if that is a person up there, they are maybe trying to do, and also recognize we're a huge district with a lot of kids and a lot of teachers and a lot of families, and unfortunately a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. So think of your individual site times that by 50, and that's kind of where we're at. And there are much higher needs at certain schools and all this other stuff. So yeah.
So it's kind of like this year everybody was like, all right, so we're back to normal.
Yeah, and that,
But
Yeah.
we're not.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And both those things
That's
are
what
true.
I mean, like, that was a very short summary, but I feel like that's what you're saying. Like,
There's this, we are out of COVID, quote unquote, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to get back to the things to teaching and learning.
Yeah,
And so that was
And making
kind of
pretty
our-
things.
Right.
And something that I felt, I don't know if it's accurate from the district level, but like it felt like we are back to normal. Let's do the things, but also since VAPA's always, no matter like where you are throughout, well, Vision Performing Arts, where you are in the United States, like it's always a weird place because it's not as secure as writing, arithmetic, etc. Everything else can be like VAPA is always more on under a microscope. So like we kind of have to perform better, but we're also like human who are tired. Humans are tired, and so we can't perform even at the rate we were before COVID.
Yes, I agree. And
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working on communication. I agree with that. And it doesn't necessarily have to always be this giant performance showcase type thing.
Sure.
And you know, I'm a true believer, and I'm going to continue to tout this as long as, you know, I'm within this position or within the arts or whatever. You need to be able to be a part of your school community
Yes.
without just being the VAPA teacher. And you need to, you know, be seen as more than just the VAPA teacher.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
so, like,
And I think that it needs to be a given that you are a part of every ceremony that goes on, you know, every big event, that of course they turn to you and your input for what all the kids can do to participate.
yeah,
Be
ideally,
more
yes.
enthusiastic. Yeah.
Not everywhere, but ideally, yes.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of the episode we had with Kirsten, as she was talking about it's easy for us VAPA teachers, at least for music teachers, like, to hide behind the instrument. It's kind of like the modality we've had. But as teachers, we have to be part of that community. Otherwise, otherwise our support falls apart, whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think even with that, there are simple steps that can be done. Is, do you know the names of any of your other teachers, your general education
Oh yeah.
teachers?
That's a big deal.
You know, do you know anything about them?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be you have to be best friends with everyone on campus.
Sure.
Absolutely not. But do you know if they have kids? Do you know if they're married? Do you know anything about them?
Do you
And
say
so-
good morning to them
Yeah.
when you walk in?
Exactly, yeah.
That,
Or-
it starts there.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
have favorites?
Obviously.
Obviously.
I do.
You do. Wait,
Obvious. Oh, well, I'm supposed to- it's Zoe's favorite. And so, like, it's not always you need to be on ILT, you need to be on SSC.
Sure.
Well, I think that those things are extremely important because, and you know, at every level, there's this decisions are going to be made, and if your voice isn't being heard, it doesn't count into
Sure.
that final decision. And if your voice is heard, fantastic. Like, you get to at least be part of that discussion. And so for me, like, I'm now on some committees that I hadn't been on before, and I don't necessarily make a huge impression over it, but I'm there and I'm talking with these people, and it's that continual rapport building. And I feel like this is all the thing I say, and maybe I got to get a new shtick, but
I don't
like
know.
it's, but it's so true, and it's so at the heart of everything that we do is like, do you essentially matter to the people you work with? And if your job, or for me, if I show up and I'm like, hey, VAPA is the only focus that anyone needs to focus on, and I don't necessarily care about SEL, I don't care about math, I don't care about science, we need to focus on this because this is the most important thing in the whole wide world, I'm not going to get along with my other coworkers. But if I go in, this is kind of what we're doing, here's the lens, tell me what you're doing, Tell me about what you're trying to do.
How can we work together?
Is there a way to? No. Well, yeah, maybe in the future, but right now, I think like where you're going, where I'm going, isn't necessarily going to overlap. But how can I support you? Do you need me to do anything? Like having those simple things of realizing everyone, when it comes to content, everyone feels that their content is probably the most important.
Yeah.
And whether or not there is a most important content, that is arguable, and there are people who will argue that for days. But
and that doesn't matter.
no,
I think that's a good paradigm reminder that it's not about the product. Like, well, it is about the product is important, but like in the end, to quote our former director, it's all relational, you know. And
It's
so
true.
it's important for us to remember that as we try to build our math programs. Like,
It's true. I think that teachers are so used to being undervalued that there's a lot of this this need to prove yourself. And you know, the things that I teach do matter, and they are absolutely necessary. And you know, I know, of course, the music side of that very intimately, because we spent most of our careers worried that our jobs were going to be ripped out from under us. But, you know, gen ed teachers feel the same, and they get frustrated when curriculum is changed or when, you know, the way that they teach is mandated because they've been doing a thing away for a while. So I understand where the frustration and the defensiveness comes from. I would also say that in addition to supporting, you know, what other teachers do academically, we have to support them, you know, relationally with the students too. Like, I love that I have some teacher friends who are totally fine sending some friends who need a break to go help, you know, in music. And that's fine. And additionally, if I, like, for example, I had a little girl in first grade who had a really rough time at recess, and she was in a place and she just could not calm down enough to come inside. And I saw one of my colleagues walking by, and I was like, "Hey, Mr. Turner, can you talk to Gabriella? She says she really wants to talk to you. Can you take a second?"
He's sixth grade, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that she knows him is fantastic.
Oh, he's amazing. Yeah. Well, and he had his class in the hallway. He stopped up and like went and sat on the bench with her and talked her down a little bit, and then she was good to go. I just love that we have that with each other.
Yeah.
Like, we can stop each other in the halls. Yeah. It's important.
And if you're a VAPA teacher, any arts discipline, and your interactions with your colleagues are, Fabian was not good today. Alejandro was not good today. Vanessa had a hard day. And that's all your interactions are. They're not going to have much value for what you do.
That's true.
Because all they see is you don't know how to classroom manage. Whether or not that's true. But if the only interactions that they have are you sharing with them, their kids are being problematic.
Oh, yeah.
That in and of itself is problematic. Now, it's not always unicorns and rainbows, and absolutely you need support. I 100% agree. Is it possible, and I think it is, to have both? I had some troubles with them today.
Absolutely, it is possible. Yeah.
I also had some really super great helpers today.
Yeah.
And for some people, and this is the thing that I'm struggling with, because there is such a differentiation of needs and wants and desires and skills that we have. And that's in education, but like when I'm planning or when we're trying to figure out, okay, what are our meetings going to look like? I can't give you two the same things as I give a first year teacher, because your needs are very different, you know? So,
well, you can't even give the two of us the same thing.
Right. Your needs are very different.
We're very different people. We're very different teachers.
Absolutely. And so with that, you know, it's if your rapport building is make sure to just say one good kind thing about someone's class when you return them, or if you have your whatever system you give stars, or like, I don't care what system it is, but as long as some
say
sort of,
something good,
some sort of communication. If there's a positive thing to say, say it.
Right.
You know,
and,
there was a
be known as an encourager.
Don't just throw this person wasn't doing great. It reminds me of this TikTok that came around. It was like, it's a general teacher that was throwing shade towards VAPA teachers. It wasn't VAPA, it was whatever discipline, whatever they call it in their state. But like, let's just say VAPA, when the VAPA teacher comes back saying, "Oh, this student wasn't doing great," and like it was making fun of VAPA teachers in that way. There's a lot of like heat thrown back. And it's valid to throw back heat, but in the same sense, like, that general ed teacher's posting that because the rapport between the VAPA teacher and them isn't positive. It's very much, it seems like it's pretty.
Yeah. Well, they
One
do
way.
take it personally. Like I want to be careful how much of the story I share, but I was helping out. I know I was helping out at my children's school after we were out because they were in session at so they're in 4th and 5th grade, and I was walking by a classroom. And I was there, and I just don't feel right walking on a campus without my teacher ID around my neck. So I did. And the kids were all like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Mrs. Pridmore. It's nice to meet you. I'm here to help. I'm a teacher." Like,
Your worst nightmare.
that's right. Oh, they learned real quick. It's like I'm wearing pink and I look sweet, but you can't throw me, kiddo. And I'm walking by a classroom, and there's markers being launched out the window. And I'm like, oh, hell no. And so I went up there, and I collected. I had like 10 markers in my hand by the time I like walked up to the front, and they were having some sort of free time. It's the end of the year, right?
Sure,
and so
sure.
the kids are, crazy. There's not that many days left. And the teacher, I just went up to him and I was like, "Hey, there are airborne markers flying out of your doorway. I just wanted to let you know, do you need some support? I'm here. I'm here volunteering. I'm happy to help. I'm a credentialed teacher." And he kind of took me aside, and he's like, "There's just 3 kids in this class that I just don't know what to do with, and I've tried everything this year." And I was like, hey, I get you. I have been in your shoes all year, my friend. I know exactly where you're coming from. This is not coming from a place of judgment. This is genuinely, can I help you? What can I do? And
So then you pull the duct tape and
right? I mean, you want to, but his entire demeanor changed because I think that teachers are so used to feeling judged.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And it's like, this is your fault.
Right.
Yeah.
It was.
And I think also we as VAPA teachers come from different
that was a joke.
positionality. Where we only see kids for, X amount of minutes per week.
Right.
And the general teacher, that is their kid.
Yeah.
And so when we say that kid is not behaving well, it's kind of a
it feels
it feels
personal.
like it's a statement towards their classroom management.
Right.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
It does. It's true. But you can't. I've learned through having children of my own that I cannot control their behavior.
Wait, really?
I can redirect it. I can mentor them. I can call them out. But I cannot control everything my children say and do.
So even think about a non-biological child.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like, people need to stop being so judge, first of all, against parents and teachers, and just get on board with, like, group mentorship. That's what it's about.
Yeah. We can't make change alone.
No.
Yeah. So help each other out.
Village.
Yeah.
Takes a village. I'm a believer in the village.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Yes.
I feel like also we get stuck with this paradigm that, the whole bootstrap, we can do it on our own kind of thing. But no, we can't.
No.
And so when we let go of those egos, and then when we recognize we can't do it on our own, other people can do it on their own. So help them out.
Dude, if we have a really great life, and if I'm giving my kids absolutely everything that a kid could want, in getting the best possible start in life, and I'm confident that they have that, and I can't control every single poor decision that they decide that they make, because they're people with their own brains and their own inner life, then of course I can't control my students. Of course no teacher can control their students. We have to be on board with helping them.
Cheers.
Which is why we're trying to build a big community.
I know,
Exactly.
but you have to feel safe and secure to have a community.
Yeah, you're right.
And we're lacking that.
So how do we fix it?
Not just us.
Well, I'm talking about just us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we started talking about
I think it's worldwide.
We started talking about at the beginning of this episode the whole element of like trust, and do we feel like the students trust us, and also that applies to our coworkers as well.
Totally.
Do we feel like does our coworker feel like we trust them, et cetera, et cetera? Like,
Right. Do we trust each other?
yeah, and I don't know,
Are we a true team? Yeah. And I think that we've spent so long isolated. We're having the same issues as the kids. It's hard to you can't grow when you're not feeling secure.
Yeah. Okay. Adding on to the theme of what should I say? Last year when we had to let go. Well, last year we let go of our art teacher, and knives came out, especially when they found out who they chose over the art teacher, and et cetera. It affected collaboration, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, it was bad. It was really bad, and I feel like we've been in this defense. If you keep on thinking about our own individual needs as opposed to the collective needs, like, the knives come out and it gets really toxic. It was the most toxic our school has been.
Yeah.
And thankfully, time has passed, and we're still working on the healing process, but that was a really hard time for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like, without knowing the story, that there was probably a large element of insecurity in that toxicity. You know, if one person can be let go, then everybody's expendable, and so some of it was defensiveness towards a friend, but maybe some of it was fear.
More so the element of, because DAPA right now is tied to collaboration. If our supports are pulled that easily, then what else is going to be pulled?
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So less of like job security, but more of like support security.
Yeah. Quality of life.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So trust each other. Help each other out.
Yeah.
I think so.
And go.
Hey,
we fixed it.
I'm really glad we fixed everything.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like when someone tells you don't be sad, right? You're not sad anymore.
Hey.
Oh, we fixed it.
Yes.
I think another element, like, I don't know, I've been reading Rest is Resistance, this book, and just rest is needed.
Is that by the Nat Bishop?
No.
No,
it was
it's by someone else.
I'll send you. I'll place in the notes.
Okay.
I have thoughts on it, but one of the important things is, like, we can't. First off, the element that we can't do this on our own is, like, very important. It's not individual freedom; it is collective freedom, and it's also this notion of we need time for. They talk about we need time to give space for grief, and you remember where the podcast that we released after the beginning, when the beginning of COVID hit. Like, we were grieving at the beginning. We talked also to PMEA about grief as well. And we still are undergoing the pains of grief. It's still in our bones. And I don't know, I know for myself, I still haven't given time for myself to rest. And ironically, I say that during summer break, but, like, I still haven't given myself time to rest. And I think a lot of people haven't given themselves time to truly rest. There's like, people, you know, try to find ways to treat themselves, but as we talked about earlier in our earlier podcast, like, treat yourself ain't self-care necessarily.
No, it's not.
It takes time. Like, rest is needs time for reflection. Rest needs time for just
incorporation,
giving space to dream and imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. So I say all that. I'm trying to backtrack most.
I know that sounds like a really excellent call to action. It's like here are the big problems that we've identified from coming out of this year and what we want to do to improve. And so what can we do right now? Take the time to reflect and rest this summer. Yeah. And imagine the direction that we need to go.
Yeah. Because I sorry, you were going to say something, but I'm not good with rest. I'm someone that's not good at rest, to the point where
really?
To the point where, you know, the first week of break, I started creating a website, like, as opposed to just, and like this past weekend, I decided to just hike Coles Mountain, just go to the top. Just like that gave myself time to just think about some stuff. And so, rest is definitely a call to action, but rest has to be intentional. It can't just be a quick little treat you give yourself, but really thinking about what do you want from life, kind of thing. Mark.
I think that there's this kind of thought process of we rest during breaks. And I don't necessarily think that that's 100% like, sure, absolutely, that's part of it. But how much time is wasted in a day endlessly scrolling? How much of a time of your day is wasted doing something that doesn't necessarily bring anything to you, to your life, but it's part of your day because of X, Y, or Z, whether that's watching TV, endlessly scrolling, whatever. And so I've been thinking about this recently with just how I conduct my own life and my kind of habits and whatnot. And I think that there is opportunity during the day to have that sort of quote unquote rest or quote unquote whatever we want to call it. And it's one of those things where if we do it every day, some form, and we cut out a needless waste of time, whatever that looks like, don't you think we would be closer to feeling more rest?
Very much
rather than, well, I have a weekend coming up, that's when I'll rest. Oh, my weekend's over, it's back to the grind.
The book talks about that. Like, so Teresa Hersey is the author's name.
Yeah.
And she talks about just rest is resistance, the element pushing against grind culture, pushing against like giving yourself space intentionally each day to give yourself time to just nap and rest. Napping down to maybe sleeping, but giving yourself time to just think about it. And like I remember also this episode from The Score. They're talking about you have to schedule in time for yourself in the day. Like we place on our calendars like productivity, things you're going to do. You're meeting with this person at 6:00. You are doing a podcast 9:30. But do you give yourself place on your calendar when you're going to rest, when you're going to give yourself time for yourself? And that's very valid. Like in our capitalist grind culture, we think so much, I need to be productive. But are we also placing time for ourselves to just breathe?
It's true.
Be
without an agenda.
With the agenda of yourself. Like,
right.
Yeah, without the productive agenda.
Teresa Hersey is the nap bishop. That's how she's known on social media.
The nap. When I said nap, I thought Can. Sorry,
no, it's okay. She's great.
Yeah.
And she does nap protests. So for her, it's taking back the power of the Black community to be seen as resting, because kind of as a I don't know, how would you put it? Like a reparation for like what was going on with slavery for so many years. It's like we're not going to see Black bodies just constantly in motion and as part of the capitalist system, constantly like serving others. We get to rest, and we have that right as a community to be seen as prioritizing our own well-being and our own rest, just for rest's sake. And it's really affected me because I pull so much of my own self-worth from what I can produce. And so to just I love following her on Instagram just to see, scrolling sometimes in my feed and then seeing a group of people who, have taken over like a quad or something to just take a nap. And that's powerful. Yeah. Because she always talks about how when you rest, that's when you dream. That's when you can imagine. That's when you incorporate the changes that you want to see in yourself and in your community. It is powerful, and we don't value it very much in our culture.
And the dreaming element, that's how we get through the problems, I feel like. When we're constantly working, we're thinking only about the problem in front of us, as opposed to how can we creatively redirect the problem. Like especially teachers, like I feel like when we're in the grind, when we're focusing so much on the next lesson, we aren't thinking about the bigger picture and how we can solve it. And so rest is super important for us to dream new ways.
Yeah. Well, as teachers, we've talked about this before. You get on campus and you basically are running for the entire day. Like I don't have time to check my email when I'm on the clock at school, let alone give myself space. So having that time set aside to put the phone down and meditate, it is important.
Is it rest that we want, or is it more healthy habits that we want?
I mean,
are they not one or the other?
Porque no los dos.
Well, the reason I say so the reason I say that is because for me, there's when you say rest, there's this kind of notion of, well, I'm supposed to not do anything. You're not necessarily that. For me, it can be like, well, my rest is I'm mindlessly scrolling. That's how I'm resting. But when I'm building or when I'm implementing healthy habits, I'm bettering myself. I'm doing the things that are what are eventually going to lead to that dreaming, to that, breakthrough or whatever the case may be.
So I'm actually going to be writing a blog on this. But so you can read this in long form later on johnsullivan.com.
We're just plugging things in.
But seriously, one of the things that I've come to the conclusion is like rest is going to look different for each person.
Yeah, it's true.
As long as it's intentional, as long as it's also giving yourself space to reflect. So rest may look different for some people. For some people, it is napping physically. For some people, for me, my rest was hiking. Like I needed myself time and not listening. I'm sorry, really big issue. People hiking on Coles Mountain, stop listening to music out loud. I place an earbud if you need to. It blows my mind, I swear. There's a sign that says you're not allowed to listen to music publicly. It affects the reflection. Anyways, but hiking up, it kills
no, I'm with you. I'm with you. It drives me crazy.
It's so frustrating. But even for me,
basically,
when I'm hiking, that's what I start doing.
People and their Bluetooth speakers are the worst. We're in nature.
Seriously.
Appreciate it.
I mean, I get it that you want to listen to music while you're hiking so you can motivate yourself to get to the mountain. Place in earbuds. Like, but seriously, but for me, I don't want to place in earbuds because like my productive self, when I drive, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to music, etc. But like my mind is constantly working, but not giving myself space to think and reflect. When I hiked up Coles Mountain, it gave me space to and not listen to anything else. That was my rest because I was able to listen to my own voice, my own body, and listen to the whispers around me so that I can think about what I want to do. So rest will look different.
Sure. And I absolutely. But in that scenario, when you're not hiking up Coles Mountain, are you resting? And you know, that's part of it, sure. But if you're building those healthy habits, or framing it in a mind where like I'm taking the time of my day to do whatever it is, to read a book, to go on a walk, to, you know, play with Lego, like whatever. Yeah. But like if you're building those healthy habits of doing that and you're taking that time every day, sure, within that healthy habit, just for the sake of this conversation, I can include, well, once a month I'll get to go do that. And then when I get to go, like that's when I get that really big recharge. But if you're, and again, this scenario, like if you're associating rest with just that action or just those type of things that aren't necessarily you're able to do during the week or during your day, then you're going to perpetually be in the state of, well, I am not resting because I have all these other things to do. So
I'm sorry. I lost your train of thought.
That's okay.
Yeah. Could you like?
Yep. So if you are associating rest with these bigger things that are not necessarily things that can be done daily.
Not necessarily. No, they aren't. They can be. That's the rest again will look different. I'm associating my hike because that's what I did recently.
I would like to propose that a good definition of rest would be something that allows your mind to not be overstimulated.
Yep.
And we live in this overstimulating culture, which as a person with ADHD is, I mean, it drives me bananas and it makes my body go crazy if I don't give myself a break. So it's been a long time since I was a new mom, but I realized when I had newborns and I was, you know, feeding them all night long, scrolling, it took me months to figure this out, was not a good activity, you know? And I mean, smartphones were still relatively new when my babies were babies. And we didn't have all the research now that you know, mindlessly scrolling all the time leads to higher rates of anxiety and depression and all that stuff.
Doom scrolling is not healthy? What?
It's not.
What?
Yeah. And it's, and your brain like physically hurts after a while when you do. Like your body tells you when you need to put the screens down. So I think any activity, whether it's taking a nap or painting or writing or even just sitting and thinking, doing meditation, rest could be 10 minutes at your lunch break, sitting at your desk with the lights off, putting your hands on your lap and mindfully, you know, breathing. That's rest.
Sure. Yeah. One thing that they propose in the book is just giving yourselves 5 minutes for affirmations. So I think we're talking about the same thing is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think so too.
I do. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that there's also in this, not necessarily YouTube, but there's this constant, well, we're tired, we need to rest. And sure, like I think, but if we're doing those things daily, how do we change then? And so that's kind of the thing of like, if you're doing that stuff daily, sure, you like, yes, work and life is tiring, absolutely. But if you've built in those, I'm going to take my rest and it's going to look like 10 minutes at my lunch writing affirmations. Great. And I do that every day. That I think is more prone to, okay, well, I am able to rest and I have that portion of my life rather than I'm going to rest when it's the weekend, when I'm on break.
Okay.
And so, yes, you can be tired. Right. And so, yes, you can be tired even implementing the rest.
Sure.
But you are at least mindful that I am taking this time daily for me rather than I am going to only rest when I go hike up Coles Mountain. And so it's whatever. And so just kind of that mindset or that talking of like, yes, I do this and I've implemented this time to rest. And so that is part of my day and whatever. And it's not just I only rest when I'm on a break. Or
right. And I think that if somebody is doing those things daily and still feeling exhausted, that they need to really closely examine that they are experiencing symptoms of burnout.
Yeah.
And if you are burned out, you need to take stress leave. And the first step to recovering from burnout is to allow a prolonged period of rest. So, so if you're in that place, then I just feel like I need to say this. Like, sure. If you are completely exhausted and you have compassion fatigue, like where you're not caring about, your job or kids or anything anymore, then you need a break, like a real one. Sure. And let me be the person to give you the permission to call your doctor and request that stress leave. And yes, and then build in those healthy habits. I really would encourage people to read Rest is Resistance. I think it's a great book, and I just love Teresa Hersey so much. So follow her on social media and let her influence you with building those habits of rest.
I don't really know how we got there. Apologies.
No, I mean, I think that it's important to define it. I'm glad that you're saying it. And I feel like I've been hearing ever since we came back from COVID just how exhausted people are. And it's like we never get out of it. And it's almost a competition where we're telling each other how tired we are.
But also, at least from my perspective, like the reason why I'm reading this book at the moment is because I've felt the collective burnout, but also the collective need for us to still fight the fight because the systems that in power are still trying to squash us, whatnot. In a broad sense, not just about that, but in general. So, like, how do we circumnavigate this? And so,
and we can't get out of that without intentionally giving ourselves breaks.
Right, and also the notion that we can't do it on our own.
Right,
it's like it's not just going to be on Jon Seligman. We got to think of this bigger. So,
yeah, you have to prioritize yourself, and then you also have to make sure that you're reaching out for community, and we need a safe enough place to have that community. There's a lot of layers here. Yep. So we're going to get all that done in the next 3 weeks for our summer break, right?
2 days.
Perfect.
Check.
Tops.
We solved it.
I'm glad we did.
All right.
I guess to wrap up rest, I just want to make sure that whenever that term is used, at least for the people listening, that there's this again, I guess it goes back to when we say the district, if we're not specifically calling it out, oh, well, I need rest. Okay, well, what does that look like? What does that need? And then what I've received from my job and working with certain people, that they get pushback of like, well, have self-care and like do these things. And so it's those suggestions to try to build in daily habits, but then the pushback is thrown back in the face like, well, we can't do that, and like that's not, and it just, we're not being specific and calling out, yes, we're tired, yes, I need rest. Okay, so then what does that specifically look like? Does it look like a weekend of just sitting on the couch and not doing anything, so then you're not resting those 5 days that you're not doing that?
Right.
So I guess just being aware of whenever we talk about that, what is doing, like what are you doing in order to try to circumnavigate this world of rest?
I agree with be specific, be intentional, because I've also I mean, you've heard me on this podcast, Chris and I have both fought on this topic before, like, and I've hated the term self-care because oftentimes I hear it is this element of, oh, just do this, but you aren't actually walking me through what that looks like, especially when I'm surrounded by, not through Crystal thankfully, but a lot of other people, like just self-care being just like, oh, just go on a spa. It's like, doesn't work for me. Like, what does it look like? What does it look like to be intentional about the rest that you do in a daily manner?
But, okay, so yes, when you add the last part, daily manner, yes, I agree. But for somebody else, that spa day is your Coles Mountain.
Correct. Yes, exactly. I mean, exactly. As I mentioned earlier,
it's going to look Ivy day.
It's going to look different. But you're right. Yeah. It is a daily element, and making sure it's not just a one-time dealio. Otherwise, you will constantly be like in and out, burn out, rest ish. It's because it's not going to be fully rested.
Exactly. And so I guess it's just being
intentional.
Yeah, being intentional about it.
And and I know past Jonathan felt like the term self-care was selfish. I remember this conversation we had very clearly, and I've thought about it a lot since, and I think that the things that Jonathan Seligman wants are good. You know, I think that you want your kids to be loved and happy, and you want to make a positive difference in this world. And so I'd like to see you, be the best self you can, because yourself is good.
Yeah. I don't remember how long ago that was, but I definitely have thought that like back. Actually, I'm sure young John Seligman was like, I gotta be doing. It's terrible. It's like, because I can't serve my community if I'm not.
That's
if
right.
I'm dead. It's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if anything,
gotta last.
Talking about the system of power wanted me to be burned out, essentially, so that the status quo can be maintained.
Yep.
And it's okay for your rest or whatever to look different and to change and to morph.
Yep.
So
that too.
So what are you doing for rest? I know what I'm doing.
I'm watercoloring a lot.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love to watercolor and take pictures. So been doing a lot of photography and art. Visual art.
You can find it at crystalpridmore.com.
No, you really can't. You can't. It's usually just for me and my friends.
For me, it's being intentional with the people I spend with, spending time with people, but also I've wanted to just create for the sake of my own. Like creating for me, like I've always shared this with friends. Like creation has always been a means for me to fight my mental health problems. Like if we're creating, we're not consuming. If we're creating, we are doing what our bodies were meant to do. I would argue. And creation doesn't mean producing necessarily. Creation means that we're like using our imagination to develop what we see around us, essentially. So
I love that.
I mean, the problem is giving myself time, because creation takes time.
Yes, it does.
Like I've had this piece of music that I've written back in college that I wanted to make the third movement of, but creation is a birthing process. Like, and like it's not something you just do overnight. It's something so you just need to sit down with it. So that's the hard part. But I'm trying to find time to be with people and create, be it musically or be it visual art based. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Mark,
or also in the writing element, because I wanted to get back into writing. Writing was something I did a lot in high school, and I think was really helpful for me to fight the sads.
Yes.
So, so creation.
So what are you creating right now?
The blog. That's going to be published hopefully after this, before this.
Where can they find it?
They can find johnsolomon.com. No, but hopefully it is actually published before this podcast is released, actually.
Cool. Yeah. Mine is I've started walking again in the mornings. So getting up with the dog. Odin. I may have torn a meniscus. I don't know. I messed up my knee back in November. And so I had been very cautious, and it still hurts, but my doctor doesn't care, and so I don't care. And so I've just decided, I'm going to do this again. So I've been going out walking. Yeah. So I'm going out with the dog every morning, and I feel different, and I have to get up early, which means I should probably go to bed the night, like earlier than I have been.
Yeah.
And I haven't been. So in order to be better about myself, go to bed a little bit earlier. But it's been great. It's, like this morning, I did not want to go, but I did. And I'm really happy I did. And it was good for me. It was good for the dog. And I got to listen to a podcast and just, it was lovely.
That sounds lovely.
So again, knowing that there will come a time where I probably won't walk in the morning every day. So then what does it look like then? Yeah. And so, and that's, I guess, what I'm just trying to get at is we have these grand ideas of rest and all this stuff. It's like, rest is when I'm on a beach in Hawaii. That's when I'm resting. Like, that's fantastic. You can absolutely rest on the beach in Hawaii, I would hope. But if that's the only time that you are thinking about that's when I'm resting,
No, it's a daily practice.
It has to be. It has to be a practice, not just a one-time dealio.
Yeah. So Seth Godin, I'm paraphrasing because
not related to Dog Godin.
I mean, no, maybe I doubt it, but he says that creativity is a practice.
Yeah.
Even great creative minds have a system to help them be creative and to hone their ideas, and that creativity is an active process, not passive. And then Maya Angelou says that you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have. So just, I don't know, being, I guess, more specific about things rather than talking in large ideals. And that's what I'm trying to work on of myself, of being more specific about all the things. Yeah. Especially in this job.
Yeah,
because I feel like one of the biggest problems I have is people are armchair revolutionists, like people who say like these great ideas, but what are you doing to actually put it in practice? That's a very fair point. How are we actually placing the things we want into the daily?
So if we say that we're tired and we want rest and we're not doing anything to do that.
Eat. Yeah. Well, wishing you a summer of rest.
Yeah.
Wherever you are.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like. And it doesn't have to necessarily be on a beach in Hawaii.
And
there you go.
if you're listening to this, in post, like during the school year, hope that you find ways to implement practice of rest, even amidst the busyness of life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Spiccato after the break. And we're back.
Yes, but before we get to Spiccato, the now no longer is the left turn. We all know what's going to happen. Thank you, everyone, for being with us for as long as 4 years, or just yesterday. But in order for this community to grow and for this podcast to be shown to other people, it really helps the algorithms by making sure you leave a review. 5 stars are the only number that I know how to count to, so leave 5 stars and leave us a review as well. I think Apple Podcasts is the only one that does that, but Spotify, Apple Podcasts, give us a review, or also go to youtube.com, CH Classroom, and like and subscribe there, even if you don't watch us there. Also, if you want to drop a few bucks our way, we have patreon.com/CH Classroom, which we have some cool stuff going on. We're posting things once a month. But if you don't have a buck to toss our way, just leave us a review. That helps.
Yeah, and for the month of June, we have, to celebrate Pride Month, we have a safe space poster that I designed and is hanging on the wall in my classroom. And I hope that it brings you a little color and joy in yours.
Yeah, so check it out. And Spiccato.
I want to take a quick break and thank my husband Bryan, who's been working behind the scenes producing these episodes every week on all of the platforms and on time. But you need to know that he is first a financial planner for Mission Trails Financial. Mission Trails Financial is a partner that seeks to guide clients in the journey to financial success. They believe that people need a financial advisor that aims to provide strategies for success. Mission Trails Financial helps people navigate investments, tax planning, and insurance. Imagine working with an advisor who isn't tied to specific brands. Mission Trails Financial has a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of their clients by providing independent, objective advice. Their mission is to help clients accomplish their financial goals. As Joe Vitale once said, a goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. Do yourself a favor and set up a time to chat with Mission Trails Financial. Visit www.missiontrailsfinancial.com or call 619-419-0238 to schedule a call. You'll be glad you did. We believe that leaning on professionals is how we get ahead. Check out the program notes for more information.
All right. Okay, here's our Spiccato, and I don't have them with me, but on the last day of school, an entire class of third graders brought in those little drink umbrellas, and I found them everywhere all day. And I thought that might be the perfect summer break Spiccato. So how about a little cocktail umbrella?
My first thing that comes to mind is not music class related. It just so talking about rapport with your coworkers, I have a good rapport with like nearly all my coworkers, which I'm really grateful for. It's a really great community, but sometimes we like to prank each other. So it's just cocktail umbrellas. I feel like I'd want to just like when they enter the classroom, they can't walk in there because there's just cocktail umbrellas everywhere. So that's what I would do.
How many are we talking about? Are we talking about like?
You could have an unlimited amount, Mark. What would you do?
My first thought is using it as a means of floating because they do have like a buoyancy when you toss it in the air. Multicolored, right?
Oh yeah, all the rainbow colors.
I've never.
So you could show like Mary Poppins with her umbrella, and then everybody could float like Mary Poppins with her umbrella. That'd be fun.
And then maybe you could also bring, if you want to add on to the Spiccato, bring in one big umbrella.
Ooh.
And then one kid has the big umbrella, everyone else is using the small umbrellas to float around. Then they have to pass the big umbrella to someone else, and so it changes the leader essentially.
Or they have to follow the big umbrella with their little umbrella.
That's yeah. But still in a floating matter. I'm sure you could also use some notation-based stuff with the colors.
We did whole notes with them. So an open umbrella was a whole note, and then a closed umbrella was a quarter rest. That's what I did in class. I was riffing because it was like the last week of school, and that's they had a lot of trouble understanding whole notes, and so I was like, oh, it's kind of a circle.
So you
That'll
see,
work.
a whole note is worth 4 beats, and so
Yeah, but we had to do it on the recorders because you can't play a whole note on an Orff instrument. Dink.
I mean, you can. You just won't have sound for all 4
right,
beats.
exactly. It's a quarter note with 3 rests. Let's be real.
that's always been a question mark for me. Is it a whole note, or is it, because especially with like the metallophones?
Yeah.
Like a quarter note
well,
would be
those
a
would
ding,
have more
whole-
sustain.
exactly. So
Yeah.
like, I've always been like, I don't know. Let us know what your thoughts are.
Or we could get into it if you want to.
Exactly.
But that's how I used it. Recorders, whole notes, quarter rests.
How would you use it as an admin?
I don't know. My only
Throw it
like
out, John. Just constantly.
my first thought is obviously a prank. Is just completely fill somebody's desk with it. The other thought was
the best.
the other thought was go collect more with your coworkers and go out to drinks. Obviously, I'm new to this scene, and maybe
Sure.
you two are not. Tiki bars, like that's like a
Oh,
thing.
yeah. It is a thing.
And
Totally a thing.
I got to go to a tiki bar with some people, and it was a ton of fun. And the drinks were fantastic, and the food was super good. Anyway, so that was my first thought of like, well, go out and get some drinks,
Yeah. Take your coworkers.
Exactly.
In the theme of what we were
Go
talking about earlier,
bond.
it's just have some
Yeah.
rapport building.
Do a happy hour.
Yeah. That's all I got. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's okay, my dude.
I don't know how tiny umbrellas would be applicable to desk typing.
Yeah. I don't know, my dude.
I don't either. All right. Well, that was a fun one. And I have a round. We want to do it?
Let's do it.
Okay. Round of the week. So this
About tiki bars?
it is not. And it's not really a round, it's a 2-part song. So it's Chumbarra. Chumbarra, 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 Chum 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 Chumbarra, 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 Chum Chum Chum.
That up.
Dun dun dun. Ready? Chumbarra, 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 Chum 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 Chumbarra, 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 Chum Chum Chum. All right, so the second part goes Chum Chum Chumbarra, Chum Chum Chumbarra, Chum Chum Chumbarra. That's it.
Okay.
All right, so Chum Chum
Chumbarra,
Chumbarra,
chum chum chumbarra,
Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chum 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 Chumbarra, 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 Chum Chum Chum. There you go.
Nailed
like
it.
Cute little easy first 2-part song for the babies. And you can start with Chumbarra, and then there's Fidoli and Chowbersky.
Finally.
Fidoli,
Fidoli.
Fidoli, Fidoli.
I'm guessing these are all vocables, right?
Guess what it means?
Oh, they aren't. What?
Nothing.
Oh, because they're vocables. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I tell the kids as I introduce them. I say, we're going to sing a song called Chumbarra. And then I'm like, do you know what it means? And they say no. I say, it means nothing. And then I say, now we're going to sing Fidoli. You know what it means? Nothing. And then we get to Chowbersky. You know what it means? And they all go, nothing. It's great.
It reminds me of when Dr. Peterson talked about when like pop singers sing yeah, yeah. You know? Yeah. It's like, are they really saying yes or no?
There's a clapping game that goes along with it. You can YouTube it. It's great. It's a lot of fun.
So you're going to do the clapping while you do the chum 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 chum.
Well, it's fun because I played as a circle game. So Chumbarra is just pat, pat, clap. Pat, pat, clap. And you sing it Chumbarra, Chumbarra, Chumbarra. And then for Fidoli, you pat on your lap and you're sitting in a circle. So first you pat yourself and then you put your right hand on the left leg of the person next to you and your left hand on your right leg. So boom. And then back to yourself and then you go to the left. So you go one to your right and one to your left. How fightily. So it goes fightily, fightily, like that. And you're all in a circle. And then for Chowberski, you go pat on your lap and then crisscross. Okay. And then pat. And then you get the legs of the two people next to you. Boom. So pat and cross and pat and out.
And
like
then
that.
you grab the legs and attach to your 30-year-old body, right? So you can't walk right now. Oof. I'm feeling it actually after the hike. It's been a while. So, yeah.
Good for you, though.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Adding on to things I want to do for rest.
So I like to keep Chumbarra in my back pocket for a good first week of school. So
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
since we go back mid-July, gonna need that.
Don't remind me.
I normally have keys in my back pocket.
Keys?
I usually have my phone in my back pocket. Yeah. What do you have? Let us know. Awesome. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
It's been lovely. It's been a while, my dude, but I'm glad
Feels good to have you back at the table.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Is there any way that people can see what's happening in the district?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, they could follow on Twitter at VAPACVSD, and then at cvsd.org.
Yeah.
So those are the two places.
Cool. Also, youtube.com/
CVESD Arts, right?
Is it VAPACVSD?
Clearly I'm crushing it on social media.
That's okay. Crystal, if someone wants to contact you, where can they find you?
Sure, you can find me on Instagram at Mrs.Pridmore, or you can find me at crystalpridmore.com.
Awesome. You can find me also at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman on all the socials. You can find us at CH Classroom on most of the socials. I think there's only one exception. I think it's Facebook, Chaotic Harmony Classroom. Also at CH-class, just to get our link tree. But also, I mentioned earlier, patreon.com/CH Classroom. Check it out. But if you want to email us directly, we do read the emails. Email us directly, chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a great summer.
Bye.
Bye.
The Chaotic Harmony podcast is a joint project between Crystal Pridmore and Jonathan Seligman. You can find us online at chaoticharmonyclassroom.com. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com and let us know what you think. Give us feedback about what you would like to hear in future episodes. We're on all the socials. Find us on facebook.com/chaoticharmonyclassroom. You can find us on Twitter at CHClassroom, Instagram at Chaotic Harmony Classroom, and you can even find our episodes on YouTube. Chaotic Harmony is the name of our channel. Special thanks to Bryan Pridmore for his help with production and equipment. www.pridmoria.com.
That went everywhere.
It did, but it was all contiguous.
Yeah, sure.
No, I really
Until you listen back.
No, I do agree. I think a lot of the things that we addressed was because we lack rest.
Yeah.
And to rhyme this all after, we'll do our best and make of this. I can't.
That whole rhyme was a mess.
But
I think you failed the test.
so it's just like talk like this.
I think so. 100%.
Hey, Crystal.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's great.
It's great.
I can hear you loud and clear.
I think it's great for the visuals, though.
Darn, just seeing your eyebrows. Yeah.
I don't think the pop filters are supposed to get wet.
I mean,
Ew. Great. All right, shall we?
I guess.
wait, well, got a burp. Okay.
You good?
I'm good.